How do you go from generating hundreds of insurance leads a month to generating thousands of insurance leads a month? That question has been asked for me so many times, and it seems like a lot of people running into the same problems over and over again when it comes to scaling their insurance marketing, because the processes that you put in place at generating a few hundred insurance leads a month should be the same processes just at scale at the ones that are generating thousands. Many people think that you have to do just things significantly different. So right now you've probably found yourself in a situation where you're generating consistent lead flow. Effectively, what you've just figured out is a series of messaging that works. You have targeted an audience that resonates with what it is that you have to offer. You've effectively positioned yourself in a way that is interesting to people that fall within inside of that market, and you've positioned a series of processes, a funnel that people can go through that is streamlined and frictionless enough to be able to engage with your business. Maybe you're doing some form of Google ads, maybe you've got some form of Meta ads running, maybe you're doing landing pages, lead forms and contact forms and callback requests, maybe you're doing booking to diary, you've got to buy online, or you're doing this through some lead form ads. Whatever it is that you're doing, you've probably found yourself in a situation thinking, okay, well that's good now, the metrics make sense now, either or I've tried to scale this up and every single time I've tried to scale up it breaks, cost per lead goes out of whack, cost per sale goes completely, way unprofitable, and the quality drops. Or on the second part to that, you just don't know how to scale up. You are thinking to yourself, right, it's good how it is, but how do we then take it to the next level? So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly that. If you're new here, we talk about all things insurance marketing, from creative design, landing page automations, ads, and a load of other things across mindset. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. You're going to really enjoy this video. We recently redesigned one of our clients' funnels from when we took them on, because the previous funnel, where it was generating a consistent lead flow, just had so many problems. Every single time the previous client had tried to scale this up before working with us, it just broke. The cost per lead completely went out of whack. The quality just was diminishing, and the more they spent, it just seemed like the worst type of customer they got through. And the second thing to that, if they were being told this is how it should work, this is how scaling works, you have to do it slow, things take time, and effectively they were just being fed the wrong information. So the reason I'm making this video is because we have completely redesigned this funnel to the point where it's now generating thousands of leads a month, inbound inquiries, just from a series of changes. So we can now replicate every single time we go into a new market for this client. When every time we go into a new audience, a slightly different offer, a slightly different messaging, we can replicate the processes that we know that work on a small range, and we can replicate over and over and over again, which allows us to have multiple different audiences, multiple different leads coming in from a group of individuals, and we can do this at scale because it's replicatable. So I'm going to talk about how you can do this yourself. I'm also going to just talk about the common things to why most people struggle with this. So we'll jump through it. So what really holds most insurance companies back from scaling? So I'd say the first one is using the wrong type of funnel. If you want to know the best type of funnel for 99% of insurance companies, that'll be the first link in the description. Scroll below, click that video. There's a video that literally articulates the right type of funnel to use. But really, in my opinion, there's three type of funnels. Funnel number one, so we're just going to call it A, is a complete call funnel. A call funnel is where you would run some form of ad to a lead form or a landing page. You'd collect information that would then go over to a thank you page. At that thank you page, you would then have somebody outbound, or they would book in a call, a scheduled conversation, but you'd usually have somebody to outreach and set that conversation, or at least engage with the customer over a call. So that's funnel number one. That is a traditional call funnel. That's probably the most reliable and easy to replicate. The second one to that is a complete online funnel. So an online funnel is add to some form of instant price online to where you can purchase that policy online. Some of you guys have that functionality. I would say that most of you don't, but that funnel is a complete buy online funnel. And then the last one is C. This is a hybrid of the two. So this is a online quote journey that gives online prices, but then has a setter and a call department and outbound team that is outbounding those conversations that come through, outbounding those quotes. This can be done in loads of different ways based on like conditional logic. It can be based on a certain premium size. You don't usually want to chase those low intent customers, but those ones that group themselves as high intent, high valuable for the business are being outbounded. That effectively is the three main funnels that I see on repeat. These are the ones that we work directly with clients on, and for a client that doesn't have a funnel in place, we would really recommend any of those three. I'm sure there are other ones, but one, I've never seen them work, and a lot of the time they're just variations of this, just executed incorrectly. I would say that 97% of insurance companies are opting for a traditional call funnel. But if you don't have a funnel like this and your funnel is something a little bit different, let's just say, I don't know, your funnel is landing page straight to a call scheduler. Okay, or sorry, an ad straight to a call scheduler, literally an ad that goes directly to a booking page, for example, to book in a conversation. There's no other context. That is a variation of A, but it's not the right one. So a lot of the time you struggle to scale because you don't have a proven foundation and a proven funnel in place. So funnel is probably one of the biggest things that I see as an error, because if your funnel just has a low conversion rate, then effectively you're always going to be overpaying for the inquiries that come in, which is going to massively skew the cost per sale and how much you can actually spend on ads. The other thing here is the audience. And what I mean by this is many things that we see happen a lot of the time is that people are going too broad on the people they're wanting to go after. Okay, so it's a home insurance company, but let's say their core foundations are within the specialist home market. Okay, so let's just say they do things like unoccupied, they do some like flood risk, they do some thatched roof. They would create ads that are just for home insurance, so they go in too broad, so they're getting the wrong type of individuals through. This is a really good example to be something like a life insurance. You would create an ad that say, life insurance, get life insurance with us, compare life insurance deals. The issue is that so broad that there are actually massive amounts of audiences and occupations and hobbies that sit within inside of that core demographic that you can actually go after. So where I see most people go wrong here is, one, they don't have a niche that they're actually going into. So they don't have a specialist market and some core products they want to focus on. This is going to be a real big problem when it comes down to things like Google Ads, because Google Ads is based on mainly for insurance on keywords. So if you're targeting those very big broad match type of words and those very simple things like home insurance, online home insurance, compare home insurance, or just home insurance companies, you're going a bit too wide. So you need to be very specific with that. This also goes back down into the funnels, but this is really going to be the third stage. So the second stage is just the audience is going too broad. You have not identified some core audiences that you want to go within. Really, it's really important that if you're running ads, you pick a handful of core audiences that you want to go after and you build ads and messaging around them. The third one to this is the landing pages are not relevant enough for, so this is really, the third is part of the first and the second. So your funnel and your audience should be able to be funneled through to some form of landing page or some form of content page that is relevant and designed for that type of individual. So for example, if it's a home insurance company but you're going after thatched roof properties, your landing page doesn't want to be generic on home insurance. It wants to be very extremely specific for thatched roofs. The same as sort of life insurance. Let's just say you're targeting sort of over 50 campaigns. It wants to be a very specific landing page that is being funneled through. If you're going after a certain type of demographic, let's just say you're going after, I don't know, you're doing a motorcycle insurance, your ads and your landing page and your funnel wants to be very particular for that type of audience. So it wants to use the same sort of color schemes that they would traditionally be aware of. Okay, so it'd be like blacks, yellows, reds, these more sort of fast, hardcore colors. You wouldn't want to add, for example, loads of pink. Or let's just say you're doing life insurance and you're targeting sort of women. Okay, and that's this ideal market. Your type of landing pages would be very specific for those colors, using pinks, using softer type of imagery. So a lot of the time, what we see, the problem when trying to scale is that their landing pages are a little bit off. So as the audience gets wider and you're getting people that are maybe less aware of what it is that you're selling, you have to rely on the brand and the messaging and how it's actually being perceived by the customers. Really important. The fourth thing to this is a regular cadence of content. So I mean, you could just call it content, but a regular cadence of content. What we see most of the time when companies are trying to scale is that they don't refresh their content enough. So they're trying to push, let's just say using some form of like meta campaign. So you're doing Facebook and Instagram, you go from spending say 50 to 100 a day to maybe 300 to say 500 a day. The issue is a lot of them what they would typically do is just keep the same amount of images, and they don't consistently add on to this. So if you're upping your ad spend and you're trying to scale more, then you do need to have more ads, you need to have more images, you need to have a variation of content, you need to have a wide range of creative diversity through that platform, because effectively if you're running with just say 4 images, that's going to quickly dry up. As if you're spending this amount of money, you need to really have 10 to 50 different type of images. Definitely with the new Facebook Andromeda update, you'd need to have a complete wide range of messaging that sits within inside of that. So one of the issues that we see when trying to scale up is that they don't refresh the content, they don't do new landing pages, they use the same funnel, the same landing page, they don't test new landing pages. So it's really important as you're trying to scale things up, you have different types of content that people can digest, either videos, images, and also text on landing pages. You might also think about making some small amendments to the funnel, or at least split testing a new idea with the funnel as well. So it's really important. The fifth thing to this is campaigns. So when you are scaling up your ads, you definitely want to be looking at new campaigns that you can add into the mix. Now, a new campaign might be a different type of audience, it might be a different segmentation of audience, it might be a completely different campaign type. If you're using Google, for example, it might be a completely different campaign type from search. You might opt for something like a GDN, PMAX, or maybe even a YouTube part of that. So you really want to try and think about how else can we target our customer, not just smashing the same sort of keywords. For example, if it was going to be Google and if it's on Facebook, can we add maybe some retargeting mix into that? Can we segment our audiences? Can we try some different things? Can we bring out some lookalike audiences? So as you scale, you definitely want to add and build those campaigns up. Sixth thing to this really is going to be just doing more of what works. Most people, once they go from doing a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand, they think they now need to just do everything new. Everything needs to be completely different. A lot of it is just a higher volume of what you're already doing. So if you've already figured out a good messaging, you've figured out a good funnel, you've figured out a series of good ads, for example, maybe some good images that are converting, the idea is not to now think of, we now need to build a brand new funnel, brand new audience, brand new everything. It's just a case of we need to do a higher volume of currently what we're doing. That's really the biggest thing here. The biggest takeaway is just doing more of what works instead of trying to think about how do we figure out new. Okay, so new's not always better. And there's going to be the 6 main takeaways of the biggest problem that most people are finding in taking their lead flow from a couple of hundred per month to a couple of thousand per month, and a lot of the things that you're actually going to need to look out for when on that scale journey. So if you want to find out more about what we do, how we can help you implement the right funnel, the right audience, the right landing page, regular cadence of content, new campaigns, and effectively bring in more lead flow, that's going to be the first link in the description. Check out that video as well, talking about the right funnel that you should be using. If you found some value, please like, subscribe, do all that good YouTube stuff. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.